Welcome back to KLM, the Kavanah Mitzvos Foundation in the Yibnei Beis HaMidrash. I have a question for you. If you had a choice to be a hero or a nervous bystander, if I gave you have a choice to be a hero or a nervous bystander, what would you choose? Obviously, you would want to be a hero. Now, these classes I'm about to give are partially inspired by a terrible tragedy that just happened, the terrorist attack in Elad, and I'm hoping that what we take from these classes will be a Ilya Nishmas for the victims and a support for the family. And I'm really serious about this when I ask you this question: do you want to be a hero or a bystander? I hope you haven't been in this situation. My daughter was. She was in what we call the Takanat Merkazit, the central bus station in Jerusalem. And there was a terrorist attack right outside. And there was a rumor that the terrorists ran into the station. People were screaming and running in all directions. It's a terrifying thing. Terrifying. Now again, I asked you, let's say there was an incident and there are seriously wounded people. Who would you want to be? Would you want to be a first responder like the Holy Hatzalah organization? Would you be a first responder, a hero, someone who's helping? Or you just want to stand there and just be uncomfortable and worried and maybe even terrified? We'd want to be a hero. So I have an opportunity for us to become heroes in a place you would never imagine. You're not going to believe that what I'm about to say offers you the opportunity to be a hero, but it does. Ready? You could be a hero listening to the news. That's right. Merely hearing the news, listening to the news, you could become a hero. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not promoting the news. Let's face it, the news is designed to be alarming. It's designed to be addictive. There's some problems. We're going to discuss that. But also we have to face the facts. In the past 3 years, there's been a level of trouble and tragedy throughout the world, and Rahmanis to the Jewish people. You know, Meron's coming up. There was Florida. There's been so much heavy news. And we need to learn, what can we do? What can we do with this news in a constructive way? So, this is the first of a 3-part series that I'm calling Jews and the News, the Good, the Bad, and the Holy. Tonight we're going to talk about the good, the possibility of good that comes from just listening to the news. The next time we meet, we're going to discuss the bad, all the troublesome, negative, addictive qualities of the news and how it can really affect us in a negative way. But most importantly, what can we do about that? And then thirdly, the holy. If we learn how to interpret the news in the right way, we can experience the news in a way that brings us close to Hashem. So that's the series we're going to do. The good, the bad, and the holy. So let's start with the good. And I have to, at this point, I want to thank Rav Yitzhak Breitowitz Shlita. Because, you know, the news is a very controversial thing, especially if you have a job to learn Torah and teach Torah. There's all sorts of, it's a complex topic, the news. So I decided to speak to a great rabbi like Rav Breitowitz. And he brought forth some tremendous good we can do by listening to the news. And that's what I want to discuss with you, what we can do each and every one of us by hearing the news. So at this point, I want to go back to what we said in the beginning. You can be a hero in how you experience it. I wasn't just making what do you call it, an analogy by talking about a first responder and Hatzalah. It's completely true. Let's take a look at this. Okay, let's do it. Let's understand how we can be a first responder to the news with 3 mitzvos. And for anyone who doesn't know what a first responder is, they're the emergency crew that gets there right away and tries to save lives, and they're the first action taken. Same too with us. We can do, and again, it's not really a metaphor, we can do CPR ourselves. And now let's go through that. The first thing, what's the first response when you hear, as I said as an example, about a terrible terrorist incident or something like this? The first thing to do is to care. And you might be surprised, but to care is a mitzvah. Caring itself is already a mitzvah. It's called nosei ba'ol im chavero, to share the yoke or the burden of one's friend, which includes feeling deep empathy and compassion and sharing the pain that they're going through. That kind of empathy and care is a mitzvah, and it's the first thing we can do. Care. Think about this. You know, the horrible, wicked people used axes and killed these people. Think about the kids. One father fought off the terrorists to save a 6-year-old kid, right? What's it going to be like for that? Care. Break your heart over this. And we're going to learn. It's coming up in a little bit. I'm going to tell you, it's unbelievable the effects of just caring. Caring is the first step, okay? After care, there's prayer. And this is something that is so important. Let's face it, as we get nearer to the redemption, we see that troubles have been continuous. Hashem should have mercy on us. But you have to know that, you know, when it comes to prayer, is prayer a Torah obligation or a rabbinic obligation? Many people think it's rabbinic, and that the 3 prayers we say a day is a rabbinic obligation, and they're correct according to the Ramban, and most poskim, prayer is rabbinic. The Rambam disagrees and says every day you have a basic obligation to praise, request, and thank. But here's something everyone agrees with. In times of trouble, it's a Torah commandment to cry out to Hashem. Everyone agrees, and every time you do that, when there's trouble and you cry out to Hashem, you fulfill a Torah commandment. So that's also a major intervention. So we have to care, to think, to feel the anguish and empathize and sympathize with what happened. Prayer, to pray to Hashem for help, and we'll discuss in a minute. And finally, repair. Okay, if you look at this figure, okay, this person cares. Davening. What does it say here? It says, we've sinned. Now, I was just speaking with Rabbi Poston. When people say, you know, the Jews are the source of troubles in the world, unfortunately, that's usually coming from an anti-Semitic voice. And the goal's not good. But the truth of the matter is, there is a Gemara in Yevamos that says, all the misfortune and calamity that comes to the world is for the sake of the Jews. In other words, we bear a collective responsibility for the whole world. We're meant to be a light in the nations, and sometimes Hashem brings darkness into the lives of people, so we will grow, repair ourselves, improve ourselves. And here's something else that's we have to realize, I'm trying to convince you, is that if you hear something bad in the news, you should repair yourself. You should improve yourself. Here's my other indication. There's a Tosefta in Shavuos that says, if a person hears bad news, it's an indication that he deserved to hear the bad news. Hashem's justice is incomplete. And that means that if a person doesn't deserve to hear bad news, he won't hear bad news. So if we do hear bad news, it is also a message to us that we have to raise our level and improve ourselves. Okay? So, when you hear the news, now let's just think for a minute. You know, the news, you listen to the news, and sometimes people do it to, just occupy their time, right? Sometimes people will hear it, and they're good people, and they feel depressed and sad. But what we're learning here is, as Jews, we can do so much good when we hear this news, right? We can care, we can do prayer, and we can repair ourselves. Now, what I want to do to complete this is to show you a very simple way to do this. And that way, you know, what could be a passage of time, what could be something like a very negative experience, can turn into a life-changing and world-changing experience. So what I hope is, as I always mention, I never want the Torah we discuss in the Kavanah the Mitzvos Foundation to ever be treated like a TV show. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's inspiring. I want us to live it. And here we're hearing that by approaching the news in the right way, we can do so much good. So that's why I came up with a very simple way. These 3 steps that we said, the CPR you can give to the victims, the people in trouble, the people who need help, it can be done in about 25 seconds. All right? So let me explain. The first thing is this: care. Imagine this is all you need to do, is to do the mitzvah sharing the yoke of your, to share the yoke of your friend who's been in trouble. Just think about what they're going through. Like I mentioned in that terrorist incident, it's terrible. Think about the families. Think about someone who's in the hospital. You just take a moment to care, and you're fulfilling the mitzvah of sharing the yoke with the other. Now, I want to quickly tell you something amazing that Rabbi Breitowitz pointed out. I said, wait a minute, Rabbi. The mitzvah of empathizing and feeling the pain of someone, certainly when you're with them or you give them a call and they see your concern and they see you care, and what happens as a result? They're strengthened. You've taken some of the load of pain off their back. But he's saying that I could be sitting in my home and I hear what happened in Elad or something like this, and I feel pain, and that's helping? That's helping them? That was my question. Listen to his answer. Unbelievable. He said like this: the Jewish souls, right? We come from one root. We're all one soul in essence. And therefore, when you feel genuine anguish about some Jews suffering, their soul feels relief. It feels you care. Their body may not recognize that someone in Har Nof feels a broken heart over their pain, but their soul will recognize it. You're really, really helping them directly when you feel pain, even if they're not there. That's amazing. And another point he mentioned, I mentioned to you, Hashem is just. And we never ever hear anything unfortunate if we didn't deserve to. So we discussed we have to respond. But here's the other thing. If you take upon yourself to feel the pain of those who are suffering, so in a certain sense, it's unwarranted for you to have that pain. So Hashem has to, if you will, we encourage Hashem to reduce the troubles for the other people. So just by caring is a mitzvah. Just by caring, do you realize what you can do? You can relieve them and you can actually diminish the trouble. The next thing is prayer. And this is, I want you to realize, even a few words to Hashem can help. I'm giving you a simple, quick way to do this. Of course, if you would recite a Tehillim, unbelievable. But if I say, every time you hear the news, pull out your Tehillim or recite Tehillim, I'm worried you won't do it. But you can do this. Hashem, help them, please. You're done. You did something, you fulfilled the Torah commandment to cry out to Hashem. It could be a few words and you can reach a very important place. Finally, repair. Here's something you have to know about tshuva too. There's a concept called hirchor tshuva. which means a mere thoughts and feelings. I wish I was better. A pangs of tshuva can turn somebody who has the status of a wicked person into a righteous person. So even a little, and I have to share this, my wife's grandmother, a holy woman, she's in the other world, when she heard bad news in Israel, and she was here in 49 onwards, so she heard plenty. You know what her reaction was when she heard the news? Chatasi. I've sinned. You hear this? She took personal responsibility, collective. And as we said, Hashem never wants to do bad. He never wants suffering. He just wants us to rise to the occasion and be the people that we need to be. So that's what I want to stress. This is, and by the way, I always encourage you, but please send me an email if you would like this. This brings down the formula, and if you train yourself to do this when you hear the news, you'll be doing so much good. Okay, we're drawing to a close of the first installment of Jews in the News, the good, the bad, and the holy. We just finished learning the incredible good. As we said, you could be like a Hatzalah person. You could be a first responder to trouble if you'll just apply what we call CPR. There's 3 mitzvos: care, which is to feel the pain of the person suffering; prayer, to cry out to Hashem in times of trouble; and repair, to even have pangs of tshuva, is significant. So I want to explain something. What I'm doing is I am trying to I try to do this often, to take experiences that we're going to have anyhow. Most people are going to be involved with the news, hear the news. Even if you don't watch the news, you're going to hear the news. You're going to hear what's going to happen. You're anyhow experiencing this. And to say there's a golden opportunity if you do mitzvahs in that time is such an understatement. But even more important is the whole movement I'm trying to start here. If you take a second and do it for Hashem. Hashem, I care because you command me to care, to share the yoke. Hashem, I'm praying because you command me to. You want me to, you tell me to. And I'm doing tshuva because of that. When you do that, there's just simply no way to describe the difference. And here's the metaphor I want to give. You know, the reason I boiled this down into a simple system, CPR, care, prayer, repair, is this. You know, here's the metaphor. Imagine you were walking in this area, and unbelievable, there are diamonds on the ground. They're diamonds, each one unbelievably precious, right? Could you imagine walking to say, you know, sure I like diamonds, but then I have to bend over and pick it up, you know, to put in my pocket. That's ridiculous, right? You wouldn't bend down to pick it up, but you know what? Just the Yetzer Hara, you know, I usually want people to follow this shir, but I don't want the Yetzer Hara to follow the shir. But I promise you, he's going to try to get you to forget this. He's going to try to get you to stay in your habit. So I'm just saying CPR, right? Care, prayer, and repair. Commit to remember it. Bend down, exert yourself a little, pick up the diamonds. And when you do that, I mean, I'm saying diamonds for yourself, and you're going to help the world at large.
Shir shir chadash